Hello everybody, this is Bird Brain. We are nerdy for the birdies. Welcome to Mock Draft Monday, everybody. We're here on this channel. We're going to do a mock draft every week in different styles. So remember, this is a mock draft. This is my personal mock. I would love to hear feedback, but let's all be respectful. So with that out of the way, let's get into it. We're going to be doing a 7-round mock draft for the Philadelphia Eagles with no trades today. So we're going to see what kind of prospects the Eagles could get if they simply just stay put and don't move up and down the draft. And I'm going to try to be semi-realistic with the picks, depending on what happens, because sometimes these simulations can get a little weird. So without further ado, let's get into it. So here we are in the draft, and there we go. So like I said, because we're not doing trades, we'll just speed through it, and we're already up to our first pick. So on the board here, we got some interesting options. You have Walter Nolan, Donovan Azaraku, Kenneth Grant, Tyleik Williams, Mike Green. Benjamin Morrison is on the board. So really, those are guys I can see realistically at this spot. Here, I do like to look a little further just to get curious. Like I said, we're not going to take any trades. We're just going to pick here. And I think this is an interesting conversation between two players. It's between Walter Nolan and Donovan Azaraku to add to the edge rushing room for the Eagles. And I think, personally, I'm going to go with Walter Nolan. Now, there are concerns about some of his behavior. I've heard things like that, practice habits. But I think that's something that if you come to this team, you're going to be surrounded by players that are going to get you right. Now, the Eagles don't necessarily have a lot of the same veterans on defense, but they have guys that have been there, that have just won a Super Bowl, that know what it takes to be mature. And I think taking Walter Nolan is the best move here for the Eagles. 6'3", 296, very athletic defensive tackle. This is who's going to replace Milton Williams in some part, and I'm sure, Moro Ojomo will start. But keep in mind that Ojomo will be a free agent a year from now, or 2 years from now, excuse me. So you do have to think a little bit about the future. So here you get someone you can pair with Jalen Carter and just think about how disruptive that pass rushing duo could be. So I'm going to go with Walter Nolan over Donovan Azaraku. And we move on down to the second round where we reach our second pick of the draft. Obviously, no trades. Just to kind of scroll up here in the draft to see who's gone, some players I would have targeted. You got Kevin Winston Jr., Trey Amos, Braden Swinson, Princely Omamielen is gone. Mason Taylor went pretty quickly as well. So, some interesting players on the board, though. You have Maxwell Hairston, the corner from Kentucky. You got Tate Ratledge, the guard from Georgia. Scroll down a little bit, you got Darius Alexander, Alfred Collins, you got Harold Fandon Jr., Andrew Makuba at safety. It's an interesting kind of spot here. I think if I were in this position, I would consider trading. It's between Maxwell Hairston and Tate Ratledge for me. I personally don't see corner as big a need as other people do. That's just me personally. I feel pretty confident in Keeley if he had to start, and you have decent depth with Adoree Jackson. I don't think we need to force the issue here. Maxwell Hairston is a player who we could take. I think I'm going to go Tate Ratledge. The Eagles, day 2, typically do like to take offensive linemen. Tate Ratledge is on the board. He's a guard from Georgia. Whoops. 6'6", 308, good size. He's not necessarily the most athletic, but he's a good run blocker. I just think, you think about that right guard position, and really just guard depth in general, because the Eagles have a lot of left guard depth on their team. I imagine some of them are going to have to learn opposite sides. We'll figure that out. I hear a lot of people say, Kenyon Green isn't also an interesting player. For this team, and some people think he could be in that conversation. I think he'll try out for it. I don't know if he'll get it. We'll see what happens. But I think you got to go Tate Ratledge. There is Jaden Higgins from Iowa State. That's an interesting option as well. But we're going to go Ratledge. All right, third round pick. Obviously, no trades. Here we are here. Ooh, I think I know who we're going to take already. We are in a really fun spot here. So we've addressed defensive line, we've addressed offensive line. Let's address the position that has some controversy with the tight end position. Terrence Ferguson is here. Just looking around at the players here, and I think he's going to be the pick. I think he's kind of one of the bigger needs we have at this point in the draft class. And if you guys watched my tight end video, you heard me talk about him. I think this is a perfect player here to address this position, especially if the Eagles are moving on from Goddard. So we'll take Terrence Ferguson here in the third round. We move on to our fourth round pick, which obviously we're not going to trade. Let's see. So, looking here at the board, I'm going to look at edge rusher because that is a position the Eagles are thinking about. There are some guys on the board, but I think I'm going to wait a little bit longer. We don't need to look at DT. We could look at CB here. Again, I just, not quite here. Oh, Kobe Bryant went a few picks before. That would have been a nice pick for us. Like I said, this is one of the challenges of sticking and picking. Ollie Gordon is here. That's an interesting pick here. All right, I think I see a pick. I would consider this a little bit of a reach, but I don't think he's going to make it to our next pick. And I think I'm going to go with Malachi Moore, the safety out of Alabama. A lot of people have compared him to CJ, and I kind of see that a little bit in more ways than one. And I don't think the Eagles need to rush to take a Malachi Starks first round. This is a pretty solid safety class. And I think safety is one of those positions that you can be a little closer to average with and be okay. It's not very consistently often you're going to have teams that have like elite players at every position. You're going to have some developmental guys that can grow. And Malachi Moore is going to have a nice contract here with this team. It'll be a cheaper deal for 4 years to play in that backfield. Interesting player would be Savion Jones from LSU as well. I could see us taking him here, but I think I'm going to go with Moore, the safety. We'll see if Jones falls. Okay, doesn't seem he did. So, here we are in the fifth round. Just taking a look at the board here. Very interesting players available to take their first pick. And we can go a lot of different directions. Take another look at edge rusher first. Jack Sawyer's here. I think I'm going to wait a little bit longer to see what I could get here because we're going to have like 4 fifth-round picks to wrap this draft up. Kind of thinking about running back, and I really would love to address running back depth in this draft. This is a great class. You got Kyle Monangai from Rutgers. You've got Jaden Blue on the board. Devin Neal from Kansas. And thinking about Kyle Monangai, he is on the smaller side, though. It might be Jaden Blue, another player I've really liked in this draft class. Let's see. Go back to the all option, of course. I know technically it would look like a reach here because of just the draft consensus, but I'm actually going to go Jaden Blue here. I think he'd be a nice, solid running back for this team. I actually believe he's actually had a meeting with the Eagles. He's visited Philly, so that's really cool to see. We're not going to take quarterback. Here we are on the board again, so we're going to scroll down here. I think my next pick here is going to be Teddy Buchanan, the linebacker from Cal. I can't remember which guy I was watching, but it was somebody playing against Cal. And as I was watching them go up against Cal, my eyes kept flashing to, I believe it was number 50 for California, and I was just like, "Ooh, who's that guy?" And granted, I'm a very much a college football casual. I'll watch games here and there, but I don't watch as religiously as I do the NFL. So for that reason, I don't know all the players. I kind of learned them through the draft process that way. And one of my favorite things as you watch guys is you see somebody else jump out to you at tape. I'm like, "Oh, who's that guy?" And then you find out they're in this class. And it's Teddy Buchanan who kept flashing to me as a linebacker. I think it'd be good depth. We don't really know what Nakobe's future is going to be here. Obviously, Trotter's still very young, and we have to develop him. So getting another guy in the room to help develop behind Bond and Nakobe would be good. So let's address the linebacker position. All right, and then we get to 165. So we're at the same kind of pick here we have addressed. Let's see what we got going on here. We have addressed the offense. Let's see. Let me think. We could go corner, maybe. I'm not like super in love with the players on the board at this spot. Did take a tight end. We could go. Is there a tackle available here? Jalen Travis is on the board. We could go tackle. You know what? I'm going to go with Ja Joyner, the edge out of Minnesota. 6'4", 262. I think this could be an interesting developmental edge player. I think really with the moves that the Eagles have made in the draft process, or really so much in free agency, I should say, I think the moves they've made have kind of freed you up to maybe take a more developmental guy. I don't think you need a bona fide studded edge in the first round if you've made the moves you've made. I think Ja Joyner is a good developmental guy, someone you can figure out. Jack Sawyer is on the board too. He's also really tempting. It's interesting how far he's fallen. I remember he was a first-round talent. You know what? We're going to go Jack Sawyer. I'm going to go with my gut on this one. I'm going to go with Jack Sawyer, actually. I feel like he's a little bit of a value here. We'll go Jack Sawyer. All right, and our final pick of the draft. Oof, cannot talk. Just looking here at the values. We could... Let's see. What could we attack? Just reading here. I think we're going to go with Nick Nash, the wide receiver out of San Jose State. Kind of someone in that similar kind of mold to like an AJ, 6'2", 203. So a bigger receiver. The Eagles are kind of still auditioning guys for that developmental backup receiver behind AJ and Devontae. I still think that obviously you have Aniyah Smith and Johnny Wilson who are developing. You have Jahan Dotson for at least one more year. So I do think they'll take some receiver at some point in this draft. I don't think it's a pressing need. So I think Nick Nash is the kind of guy you'd want here. Late in the 6th round as your final pick. So that will wrap up this draft class for the Philadelphia Eagles in 2025. As we finish up the picks, this was a no trades mock draft. And you can see it creates a little bit of difficulty. But the Eagles walk away with Walter Nolan, Tate Ratledge, Terrence Ferguson, Malachi Moore, Jaden Blue, Teddy Buchanan, Jack Sawyer, and Nick Nash. Now, I think this is a pretty solid mock draft for the team. Next week, we'll be doing one with trades, so we'll be able to go after players that maybe some of you guys would like me to go after, players that I would personally like to go after in this class that we weren't able to get here just because of value and whatnot. But I think this is a solid overall draft. Anyways, this is Bird Brain. Hope you guys enjoyed being nerdy for the birdies. Fly Eagles fly. See you around.